Hello and welcome to another episode of A Focus on Careers. Today we've got Belinda Schweiger, who is a classroom teacher and is going to give us an overview of her career, how she got there, what she does, what she likes, what she doesn't like, and any tips and tricks for those out there considering teaching as a career. So over to you, Belinda.
Sure. Hello. Thank you for having me, George. I guess, do you want me to start with what I do or
Yeah, kick off
general overview?
general
Sure.
overview, what you do, and we can go from there. Thank you.
So I'm a classroom teacher. I currently teach kindergarten. It's my second year on kindergarten. So
Oh,
I'm trained in primary K to 6. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. I work in the public system. So I guess if you're a teacher, you could work in Catholic, independent, or public, but I'm in the public system.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, that's just a general overview.
So you obviously studied to get into teaching. So let's go back a step and look at year 12, year 11, and
Yeah, sure.
12. And did you begin? Was it a Moresby thing, or was it a passion that you had for it, or how did you lean towards that, or did you just stumble into it?
Okay, sure. So I actually did nursing at uni prior to teaching. So I
Hmm.
did a year of nursing at university. I was at Western Sydney University.
Right.
And I just realized shift work is not for me. I am very much a routine person, so I like getting up early, doing the day, and going to bed early. So nursing was not for me. I did enjoy what time I spent doing it, but I just knew it wasn't for me long term. So then I moved to teaching, and I kind of always loved school, always loved primary school and high school. But I just knew that primary teaching and that kind of, I want to say, lifestyle and that kind of workload would be something that would really suit me. So I guess the passion was always there. It was just came out a little bit after I had started university.
Right. I think with nursing and with teaching, I guess they're both careers of passion.
Yeah, and of
Um,
people, you know?
yeah, and giving back and community service and really, I think the people, the typical people that get into teaching, get into nursing, uh, are very giving in a way. I mean, you're talking about the shift work and all the rest of it, but I think you give the same effort
Yeah.
in a classroom as you would in a nursing situation. It was interesting what you said about the shift work. I had a session with a registered nurse a couple of episodes ago. I might actually link that to this episode. And one of the drawbacks that she stated was that the shift work was
Yeah.
was an issue. And she flipped it around. She said also the shift work actually gives you, if you want the money,
Yeah.
right? It pays well, but she's got into community nursing so
Mm.
to avoid the shift
Yeah.
work
And
side of
there is ways
things.
around it,
Yeah,
obviously, but
yeah,
I just knew for me personally, I did shift work when I worked in hospitality, and I
right,
just already knew it wasn't for me. I
right,
loved the people side of nursing and I loved that aspect, but yeah, just
yeah.
the hours were not for me personally.
Cool. So you started the degree in nursing, and
Yeah.
how did you sort of shift? How
Yeah.
did you pivot to get into? Did you get credits for anything, or did you?
Yeah. So I didn't get any credits for anything, and I actually changed from Western Sydney to University of Technology. So I moved from Parramatta into
Oh,
the city. From memory, I think I just had to reapply for the degree online.
right.
My ATAR was fine, all that kind of stuff was fine, so it was no issue. And the ATARs were roughly the same anyway for both degrees, so
Right.
there's no issue. But I knew, say, halfway through the nursing degree that I had wanted to change. And then it was more like the stress of telling all the friends that you've made in your degree, like, oh, I'm not going to be here next year. But it was fine. And I knew that was the right choice for me to make. And I never have regretted it once.
Right. And it's interesting. I think what we're trying to get out of this project is to really highlight to people out there, young people at school, young
Mm.
people at university, or people looking to change careers, that it's okay to change your
Mm.
mind. You
Yeah,
know,
of course.
it's okay to, you know, it's not a straight line. You know, it's fine to have a change of plan, change of heart, and clearly the reasons you made that change were clear in your mind, and
Yes.
they make very much a great deal of sense. So let's step even a little bit further back
Mhm.
at school. How did you direct yourself towards this? Did you pick specific subjects for year 11 and 12,
Yeah.
or
So
yeah?
I kind of had the idea I wanted to do something medical. So then you
Mm-hmm.
obviously had to pick a science subject. So I did biology.
Right.
And then you had to have a maths subject, which I think was beneficial anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I only did 5 subjects and I picked ones that I knew I'd be good at. The school kind of was like, oh, you should have the backup subject. And I just thought, why, when I'm going to spend more time on a subject that might not even count towards my marks, I just did the
Mm,
5. And yeah, I did pick a science and a maths just
right.
to keep that option open because I know a lot of universities do have that prerequisite for a maths or
Well,
a science.
that's a good tip for people out there. People currently looking at what subjects they're going to do
Yeah,
in year 11 and 12. That's very interesting then. So you got through, you went to university, UWS at the time it was called, right? Or
yeah,
yep, and then you moved to UTS,
yes.
graduated. Did you do, I mean, obviously with teaching, you do some, it's practical as well as theory. So
Yes,
you go into
so
the classrooms. Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I picked UTS
Mm-hmm.
compared to, say, Macquarie, because UTS you start a prac or placement first year, first semester. So you're in the classroom straight
Wow.
away, and you do one pretty much every semester your whole degree. As opposed to Macquarie, sometimes you're not in a classroom till your late second or third year out of a 4-year degree, which I
Oh,
just think is crazy that you might then get in there in your third year and not even enjoy the experience. So that's why
wow.
I really loved it, is that you got all that extra time and the extra experience in the classroom from the get-go, which I
Very, very
love.
mature approach.
Yeah.
Very, very mature approach. I like that.
Mhm.
That's sensible. Dip your toe in the water and see.
Yeah.
And this is again another issue or another fact that we want to share with people out there is that you can taste test, so to
Of
speak. You
course.
know, try before you buy, and I think it's very important. You know, we
I know
university. Sorry,
you go.
no, I was just
Oh,
going to say.
a lot of people in nursing say did
Hmm,
their placement and then realize, oh, actually, I don't like this. And then they do leave after that first year. So that's the
right.
same, seeing what you kind of like. Same with teaching. Once you're in that environment, you know very quickly if it's for you or if it's not.
Yeah, and you know, university degrees aren't cheap either. You can build up quite a sizable HECS debt and
Hmm.
then realize what you've invested in is not what you really wanted to do. So seeing that beforehand was very, and you knew that when you were making the selection of where you
Yeah.
wanted to
So,
study.
yeah, I had known that UTS do more placements compared to other universities. Yeah.
Right, right. So now you're in second year out of
Yep.
university, and you're teaching full time,
Mhm.
and like as a primary, is there a specialty area that you're focused on, or are you a generalist across multiple
So just
subjects?
general. So you can do some of your 4th year subjects specializing per se in a science or maths, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the area where they want a lot of teachers to invest their time
Right.
because there's not a lot of people willingly teaching those subjects if it's a specialty kind of field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm just general K to 6 trained, so can teach all the different areas.
Right. That's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
and how have you? I mean, one of the big challenges for teachers, for students, everyone's talking about the students, but I think equally as difficult for teachers has been the remote learning situation.
Mhm.
Interesting for someone like yourself. Effectively, the first 2 years of your career have been on predominantly
Yeah.
remote learning. So, how have you found that challenge?
Um, I guess last year it was challenging.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that it's not just me sitting there making all the lessons just for my kids. my school has been very collaborative. So we've had to work in a team environment to develop these lessons to then share with the kids. But same as this year, I found. But it has been challenging. It's especially with kindergarten. You know, last year they stopped in term 1 coming to school, whereas this year was term 3. But it's hard for any grade, let alone the youngest grade in the school, because they thrive on those social relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for computer work. I didn't sign up to sit behind a computer all day. And like, obviously being at home, I didn't really mind. It's a nice routine, but yeah, it definitely has been a challenge. But I think it's shown me what's really important for kids to know and what other things maybe aren't as important
Right.
to know. So it's kind of shown, yeah, what is valuable to teach them and what is less valuable.
Yeah, I think it's really highlighted the need to be flexible as a teaching professional, because certainly, I mean, I know from personal experience, my son who is in year 10 this year, and the remote learning, the school was incredibly proactive, very big on communication, keeping parents, carers clear on what was being done, what was being submitted, what wasn't being submitted, all these sorts of things, just to keep on track of them. So it proved quite difficult, but I think it's an experience, and I think people will be better for it down the track. So in your class at university, what was the demographics? I mean, from a gender perspective,
I would say 95% female and 5% male, or 90-10 maybe. We did have a few males. A lot of the males lean more towards high school teaching. I don't know if they're interested in sport or history or English or maths, but there were a few in my degree. We had a small cohort, maybe like 80 to 100 people doing my degree in the same year. And I'd say, not too many of the men were doing primary. A few were, but majority were high school. But it was people from all over Sydney, people from the eastern suburbs, out to Campbelltown, the Hills area. There was just heaps.
Right. So tell me, how does that translate into the classroom? I mean, that was your cohort.
Yeah.
Is that indicative of the landscape, broader landscape of teaching in New South Wales?
Definitely. My school per se has, this year I think we have 30 classes, and I think there's 2 or 3 male teachers.
Wow.
So, and to be fair, a lot of schools, the executive, say the principal, the deputy, would be male teachers. At my school, it's all females. Which I guess also shows, just because you're a male, do you belong in that higher position, or are you just there because you managed to work your way up? Which I think if 90% of the teaching staff are female, then the executive team should be reflective of that too.
Yeah. I do believe that. There are some very, very senior principals of schools out there that are female. Those, the private schools, etc. And I would agree with you if you've got that spread of 90% female, 10% male. On meritocracy, you should statistically have a higher chance. But and a long time ago, I would agree with you. Long time ago, it was similar to banks, where you got to the top because you've been there longest.
Yeah.
So Billy Bloggs was a bank teller. And then next thing, Billy Bloggs is a CEO after 30 years or something, right?
But now I think it's a lot. There is processes involved to climb your way up, and there's opportunity at every school to go to those higher positions if that's what you're interested in. Some people are happy just being a typical classroom teacher their whole career, whereas others have that drive to be a leader and pursue those higher positions.
Yeah, and I also feel that if you're going into teaching, as as a passion, because you want to impart that knowledge to young people, see them grow and be part of their development. It's not always going to tick all the boxes for you to be sitting in an office somewhere, discussing budgets and discussing investments and what we're going to do and recruiting and all these sorts of things. So I guess it's also what plays to your skills, what plays to your desires, etc. But I do believe that today we have a far more transparent recruitment process, and positions are open, very transparent in that sense. Yeah. So you've chosen the state school system, and was that by desire? You chose.
So I guess the school I'm at now, I kind of fell into the school. So right. I had my last placement. So in your 4th year, you do 2 6-week placements, and your last one's called an internship. So you're in the classroom by yourself, teaching full time. The classroom teacher is out of the room. So it's kind of ownership of that class.
Wow.
So earlier in the year, I got offered a maternity leave position. Or that teacher whose class I was on was going on maternity leave. So it worked out that after my internship, I just continued on with the class till the end of the year. So I was actually teaching full-time and going to uni full-time. So I used to have to leave school, drive to the city and be at uni till 6 or 7 at night, a few days a week. And I did that probably from like September through to December. So that was in 2019. So that was tiring, but super grateful, because then I got offered the following year my own class for the year. So
how great! I mean, I think I think that's certainly, if you're going to try before you buy, what an opportunity that Definitely. Was, and to be given that kind of responsibility so early in your career. That's, I mean, you must have left quite an impression on the school there. So that's great. I remember we used to always have teachers, stand-in teachers, and covering leave and things like that. And some of them you'd wish would stay, Yeah.
So it was really nice, and it was a nice feeling to be given that opportunity. So right. I'm super grateful. But yeah, in terms of the public system, I have friends who work in Catholic or independent public. I think the premise, it's about the kids, you're all doing the same thing. It's just little things here and there which are the difference, Yeah. But in terms of public, personally, I think every child has right to education regardless of your financial status.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm passionate about. But I went to a private high school, so I understand the system. So if I was to go down that path, I think I would suit it as well. I'm not really fussed. If I happened to get a job at a private, obviously I would have accepted it. But I've just gained a permanent position at a public school as well, starting next year. So,
well, I like that. I like that attitude. You're quite right. It is about the kids. It's about the children, and regardless. I mean, my children have been through both systems.
Yeah.
So, and I can tell you that the passionate teachers shine out regardless of what your fees are. Right?
Definitely. I feel as well, I feel like there would be more expectations as a teacher at a school where parents are paying a large amount of money. You're then expected to do the Saturday sport and be available, at different times, as opposed to, public system is Monday to Friday. There's not that extra expectation on you, which some people thrive on. Me personally, I wouldn't want to give up my weekends for my job. That's just me personally, but some people are happy to, because that's their passion and they're passionate about it. So
yeah. Well, and it's not to say that you're less passionate. I mean, I think there are teachers. It depends on the level. I think at year 11 and 12, I feel that a lot of the teachers there throw everything at the kids at that end of year 12, where they have their study weeks or study time, and teachers stay at school, and they say, we're here, you can come in, we'll study, we'll teach. So I do, and I think teachers do sometimes get a bad rap sometimes, and I think it's unwarranted. Because,
Teachers are the first in the media to get slammed for this or slammed for that, but
yeah.
it is what it is. It's not going to change.
Well, I mean, even I'd be interested to get your take on it, because from my perspective, I get a lot of backlash from some friends and family on this, but I tend to be a little hands-on with the teaching, with homework, and knowing what's going on. So, but some people tend to feel that it's a set and forget. You send them to school, and that's where they're expected to learn, and nothing is happening at home. And I don't, and I tell you, whether it's been at state school, public schools or private schools, I've applied the same to it. And so what are your thoughts on that from a...
Well, I guess at my school per se, homework was an expectation, then it wasn't an expectation. Then the parent committee then decided as a community we do want homework, so then parents could opt in, and now we just do it via an online platform and we give feedback to the kids who submit it. Me personally, I think for the primary years, especially the younger years, say K to 2, I think as long as they're reading every day, more importantly they need to be outside playing, being with their friends. For some kids go home and they're at music the whole afternoon, then the next day they're at tutoring the whole afternoon. But I think as you get older, especially high school, I think studying is important. Me personally, my mum never had to tell me to study because I for some reason just really enjoyed doing it. But I can imagine as a parent or as a child, if your parent is then forcing you to study, if they're helping you, that's awesome. But if they're locking you in your room and saying you're not coming out to do studying, well then issue. But
help is where I leave it.
Parents can get very fixated on, oh well, they're up to this color in their sight words, or it's like, I'm like, what? As long as they're happy and doing well at school, parents can't see all day what you're doing in the classroom. But especially since this home learning, and we've had to then be more accessible to parents. And I know at my school we have been asked now to upload something every week, English and math based, online for parents to see their child's learning, which I think is great as well. Then they're actually seeing what their child can do and what they can't do.
I do believe that for a long time there was you got the school report at the end of each semester, and that was when you found out whether Johnny or Mary were doing well or not doing so well. And now it seems to have shifted. There seems to be a far greater emphasis on feedback, regular feedback. 100%. So there's nothing's left for surprise.
No surprise.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's the thing, like, especially being kindergarten, that I've been on the last 2 years, we are regularly showing parents their writing or recording them reading. And I know I will message parents, even if it's behavior, and I'll say, so-and-so did this today, we're working on it, just so they're aware of what's going on. Especially around report time, I will always let the parents know prior if there's something in their report. If I can say, oh, they cannot write a sentence, and they had no idea, and then they get the report, and it's just saving myself and making sure they're informed as well.
Yeah, there's nothing more awkward than that last minute surprise. Yeah. Indeed. So tell me, there are lots of great things and some difficult things, I guess. Challenging. One of the challenges of being a teacher is there's a lot of emotion involved, similar to nursing. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions. No parent wants to hear that their child's not keeping up or their child's misbehaving. A lot of parents are putting pressure on teachers and students alike to improve. They want to see them at the top of the class, etc. So how do you manage that? How do you manage the emotion? You've got kids traveling at different speeds in your class. I'd be interested to get insight on how you manage that.
Sure. So we do a lot of, it's called formative assessment. It's like talking to the students, seeing where they're at, and then for each student knowing where they need to be next. So just because student A can write a sentence with 5 adjectives,
Yep.
student B might only be able to just write a sentence with a capital letter, you know,
Right,
like
right.
that might be their goal for that day. So just it's actually comes down to having those strong relationships with your students and just positive relationships with their parents, because if you don't have that, they are going to misbehave. They're not
Mhm.
going to be engaged in their learning, and they're not going to want to listen to you or want to learn. And that's why I think I'm really grateful I got put on the earliest grade possible, because that whole first term is about building relationships, getting to know the students in your class, and then the learning happens. I think a lot of people think it's just, I'll get in the classroom, teach a lesson, and that's it. When it's not, it's you might teach a lesson, it might not even work out how you thought. Then you go, okay, the next day I'm going to try something completely different. I'm going to scale it back based on what they showed you that they know. So I think that's really important, is that relationships, which then allows you to understand where they are and where we need to move them forward to be. And that's different for every child and every class.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
Mm.
So, I mean, not speaking out of school, not using any examples or anything like that,
Yeah.
but dealing with difficult parents or
Yeah.
carers.
Mm-hmm.
How is, I mean, is that frustrating? Is it difficult? Is it, taxing?
So I've been pretty lucky. I haven't really had too many negative experiences with parents. I think it's best to just keep like an open mind and an open communication with parents. So
Mm-hmm.
I will send them reminders through, we use a platform called Seesaw, which is like online. But if a parent does come to me with a concern, I always, give them a call, talk about it, or if it's face to face, especially when that child might have, say, a learning difficulty or a behavior issue. As long as I'm being upfront yet still professional, and I don't put any blame on the child. I don't say like your child did this and this means, I'm just like, this is what happened. What do you think? What would you like to do moving forward? And it's kind of just allowing them to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I think when parents feel like they're being told something about their child that they don't agree with is when they can become quite, mean and kind of shut off. So I think just being positive and, keeping it in that kind of manner. But I've been pretty lucky that I haven't had any really difficult parents yet. They've all been quite lovely. So
good to hear.
ask me again, maybe in 5 years.
Yeah, well, I might just do that. You're doing primary.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that there were some in your class that maybe are doing high school. I mean, what's the transition?
Yes.
How can you decide at some stage you want to move into secondary and high school?
When you're at uni at UTS, you could decide if you wanted to do a K to 6 degree, a K to 12 degree, or a 7 to 12 degree. So we kind of overlap depending on the subjects that we thought. There were subjects that everyone K to 12 did, and then more specific depending on if you're primary or high school. I know some people can do preschool up to year 2 as well. So you can do like infants and preschool degree as well. I know if you're high school trained, you can teach primary, even if you're not primary trained. But if you're primary, you cannot go to high school unless you did the whole K to 12. So I know there's actually the teacher's position I took when she went on maternity leave. She went to uni and did high school PE teaching, and then just happened to get a job in a primary school. Even though she wasn't primary trained. That makes sense. I really don't know how that works or why it's like that, but yeah. So
it makes some sense. I mean, I think you do. I think the training, you would need to have some special training for primary, because
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
So to be fair, like I think uni was great and a lot of it was beneficial. There's a lot of things you cannot teach until you are in a job. And a lot of it, looking back, I'm like, didn't even understand what I was learning at uni until I actually got into the classroom and had to actually write a lesson plan or program or actually do X, Y, Z. Now I'm like, oh, that's what they're actually trying to teach me in my first or second year, and I had no idea. So it can be very overwhelming at uni, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to write a whole 6 weeks worth of lessons. When actually, when you get into the job, you realize I've actually got 5 other teachers with me. We're all working together. There's lessons from the previous year. Like, there's a lot more going on to help you than just if you feel overwhelmed at uni.
Right. So one of the biggest developments, and we talk about it all the time, really, technology. How has technology transformed the classroom in your opinion? And you know, how do you find it, and how do you find the kids dealing with it?
So I was on year 6 for that first half of that year. And obviously they're very independent. You know, if you give them a task on Google Classroom, they can complete it, and you don't really have to provide them with that one-to-one technological support. But all the classes in my school all had either laptops or iPads, and they were used quite regularly. And then also obviously home learning, the students were on a device all day for their learning. I found in kindergarten, we all have iPads, and the kids love them. They love to use them. I try and incorporate them in an educational way, but at times when, you know, you're like, I just need a break for 10 minutes while I read with this child, and I say, okay, this group can go on iPads and, you know, listen to a story or do whatever you want, kind of thing. But even today, my whole class, which is 20 kids, we all did Scratch Junior like coding program all together, and every single student was able to make a little animation on their iPad themselves. And in my mind, I was like, I wouldn't even have thought, I didn't even try it last year. I was like, oh, they can't do that. They're only 5 or 6. And then today, the whole class was able to do it, and the engagement was so high. Like, they absolutely loved it. So I was like, oh, I really should be doing this more often, or, you know, not thinking, oh, they can't do it because they don't even know how to actually turn the iPad on, or, you know. So it's just giving them that little bit of guidance, and then allowing them to use their creative thinking, their problem solving, which a lot of kids nowadays just think, oh, you need to tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. And if I don't understand, you're going to do it for me. Whereas I'm totally opposite to that. I say, okay, well, you need to try and figure it out and develop those problem solving skills, which I think technology really allows them to do.
Yeah, that's quite impressive, I've got to say. And
I was impressed. I haven't been that quiet for weeks. So it was nice.
The ability to grasp technology and use it so quickly.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I guess it also helps you from not having to take tons and tons of textbooks or exercise books home every week to check and mark, and you know, it makes it, then people are getting it real-time feedback as well on their progress. That's great.
I also use it for assessment purposes too. So there's like a program I use, and it allows me to take a photo of their work, and it will save it as a file. So if I ever want to show the parent, this is great for like report time, show the parent goes, oh, you said they can't do this, but I think they can. And I can show them straight away, well, this is the evidence that they didn't do it on this day, or that they did do it. So it's really handy in that way too.
That's quite good. That's quite good. Yeah. And so it's a day-to-day progress. You're working with kids, you're working with parents, you're working with other people. Are there any things that people need to be conscious of if they're, you know, like they need a strength, obviously patience, empathy, those sorts of things? What are some of the core attributes you feel someone really needs to get into this career?
Definitely patience. That is like number one. Every day I say to myself, just calm down. They're just kids, you know, like, because it can be overwhelming. You know, you're having 20 to up to, I had 33 kids when I was on year 6. Like, that's a lot of people to try and get to listen to you. And it comes back to, if you cannot form those relationships, there will be no respect. They literally will not listen. So I think I've been really lucky. I'm quite personable. I feel that, you know, I can not stand up the front and think, you know, I've got power over you, I'm better than you. It's being able to just be honest and real without obviously stepping over the line. You're still a professional. But definitely patience, I think, as well. Definitely having empathy, but not allowing it to overwhelm you and overtake your life. I know I'm very like, I love my job. I go to work. But when I leave at 3:30, 4 o'clock, that's kind of it. I go home and I have my own life. Whereas I know some other teachers, and this is fine if that's how you want to do it, their work is their whole life. But
Right.
for me, this career suits me because I can switch off and I can, enjoy my weekends and enjoy my afternoons without feeling like overly stressed about work. So
I think that's important. I think it's
having that
important.
ability to, distinguish between your own life and your work life
Yeah.
is something that if you're a teacher, you really need to think that you can do that. Otherwise, it will literally consume you, as I've seen with other people I work with.
Well, I think that's a lot of professions are like that. I can
Mm.
certainly, put my hand up and say guilty, right? Working throughout
Yeah.
my career, the BlackBerry was always close, or logging on to, getting an email and feeling you need to respond to it, and so there's no cutoff, there's no freedom, it's always playing on your mind, and it's very unhealthy. Certainly been unhealthy in that respect. So when you're looking at the career itself and what you want to do and how you want to do it, etc., it seemed to me from talking to you on that you need to be pretty certain of where you want to go in it, if you want to do secondary, or if you want to do that, those three categories that you broke it up into. So and how do you have an initial period at university where you're deciding that, or do you decide that off, like, for example, what I'm saying is, are there core subjects and then electives sort of thing, or how does that work?
So I think when you enroll in the course, it's actually like Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Primary, brackets K to 6. That's what you'll pick, or it'll be K to 12. So it's up to you to pick. I'm pretty sure, depending on the uni, that if you wanted to then change and say, actually, I'd really like to do 7 to 12, I'm sure you could easily do that because the subjects would carry over. I'm sure like the subjects you do in your first, second year, they're all pretty similar. Regardless, you get kind of more into the electives as you get to your third and fourth year. I know I did an exchange program, so I actually went and did my electives in San Diego. And I did like special education electives, so focusing on like autism and things like that. But the electives that you could pick here were related to special education or reading or maths or science kind of thing. But I'm sure if you wanted to then change to the 7 to 12 or the K to 12 or the K to 6, that you could.
Now, one thing that we've talked about when we've had some of these sessions is about transferable skills. So, I mean, obviously there are several areas where the skills are transferable locally, but teaching, I mean, does that allow you to teach overseas in the States or the UK or the...
So definitely the UK. I know heaps of people that have gone to teach in England, but I'm pretty sure you can teach literally anywhere in the world. Like, I know I've looked it up myself to possibly do it, but I haven't. But it's like, if you want to go to Japan or Thailand or Russia, or you can literally go anywhere. And often those places will have like an international school, like
of course
what Lizzie and that went to as well. So and they take a lot of teachers. I think obviously if you speak a second language, that's beneficial, but I know I don't. So, but yeah, the international schools, they're everywhere and they're always looking for teachers. And a lot of them will pay for your housing and stuff as well.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's basically an expat lifestyle, because I certainly, when the kids went to the international school in Singapore, the majority of the teachers were Australian teachers. So it was nice to have those familiar accents.
Yes. Definitely opportunities. I know though, if you're wanting to go interstate, so I was looking possibly at Queensland. It's a different, like, we use NESA as our educational body, but there's a different one for Queensland. So you'd have to apply for like a transfer in a different state.
How strange, isn't this country? This country of ours, whether it's education or whether it's COVID restrictions or whatever the case may be, it's easier to go overseas than to go to Queensland. Easier to teaching overseas than teaching Queensland.
But it is possible. But yeah, so if you wanted to teach in a different state, I know one of my friends from work came from Perth, and she had to also transfer over. I think you'd obviously be paid similar depending on your grade and scale, but yeah, you have to transfer over like your accreditation and things like that.
Well, it's wonderful. Any other tips, any broad sort of thoughts or if, pearls of wisdom that you can impart before we finish off here?
I'd say I love my job. I love working with kids. I think it's different every day. You always hear that, oh, you only work 9 till 3 and you get school holidays. And I say, well, yeah, I do get school holidays. Like, obviously, that's one really beneficial part of teaching. And, when I myself then go to have kids, it'll also benefit me. They're all things I was thinking of long term when choosing this career as well. But I think if you love education and learning and have a passion for kids, then I think it's definitely a worthwhile career, and it's really rewarding as well.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for all your inputs. It's very kind of you to share that with the broader community, Belinda. I really appreciate that. If anybody's got any questions for Belinda, just shoot them across. The email is in the description, afocusoncareers@gmail.com. If you have an interesting career you'd like to share with us, or someone that has, drop us a line. We'll be happy to arrange an interview. Don't forget to subscribe so you get notified immediately when a new post is posted. And thank you again, Belinda. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your input. And I wish you every success in your wonderful career. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problems.